Doug had gone upstairs to run, and I was on the treadmill, and then he came back down and said, my foot's bothering me, I'm just going to run. I just ran 2 miles. I'm going to get on the sit-up machine and do a few sit-ups. So I said, okay. He said, if you want to do some machines, go ahead. So I went and got on one of the leg machines, and he was, I thought, on the sit-up machine, and just kind of felt a commotion behind me, and turned around and looked, and he was on the floor, and was already gray to me, looked gray to me, but just blue, I guess, is the technical thing. And they had already started working on him when I saw it.
I was running on the treadmill and just saw chaos, but they were already, like I said, Mason and the guys here did amazing. These guys, I mean, these are young guys. I'm old, but these are young guys, and they did amazing. I mean, they jumped right on it and calling 911. Mason was already getting him ready, and so I just went over to assist Mason. And
I was actually not on the clock. I was working out. I had been doing some tricep dips, and I had a weighted belt on with some weight on it, and a lady turned around and looked at me and said, "Do you think this guy's okay?" And I looked at him, and I knew immediately that he obviously was not okay. I think she might have just been scared. And so I jumped down, had the weight on me, unclipped it, just dropped it where it was at, ran over there, and Mr. McGrew had actually already fallen down. He had started seizing up, started having a seizure, it seemed like to me. And so I turned him over on his side so that if he were to aspirate, that maybe he wouldn't choke on it, and that it would. We started to try to get his breathing down, but he stopped breathing immediately once he started seizing. Started to turn blue, and then all of his seizures stopped. His carotid vein in his neck had swollen up, and the muscle was like completely contracted, and it just cut off all of his air circulation. So once he stopped breathing, I noticed that he started to turn blue. I started to check every pulse site that he had. We could not get a pulse anywhere. Checked over and over and over just to make sure. And by that time, Lynn had already gotten down there with me, tried to help me find a pulse. I couldn't tell maybe if he had one, and I was just so shaken up that I couldn't feel it because mine was beating so fast too. But once we figured out he didn't have a pulse, I looked at Lynn and I said, "I think we should start CPR," and I immediately just started doing chest compressions. And Lynn did breaths for me.
I'm old school. I still do the old CPR.
We actually, our mask that we had, we didn't feel comfortable using it, so we just went ahead and went mouth to mouth, and as somebody was running out to their vehicle to get a newer mask to do the breaths with. But either way, it doesn't matter as long as you get the air to them. But so I did 30 compressions, and then Lynn did a couple breaths, and I did 30 more, and she did a couple more breaths. And by the time he had gasped for air, and had started getting some color back and started breathing, and I ended up doing 30 more compressions. I did 90 compressions total before we ever felt a pulse again. And then we had hooked up the AED, and it detected that he had a pulse, but that it was dysrhythmia, and it wasn't in rhythm. And then it actually advised a shock, and it shocked him once. And then everything got back into the rhythm by then, and we handed him over to the ENT. It was probably a couple minutes.
Yeah, it was probably not very long at all. And I do dermatology. I mean, I've been a nurse for 30 years, a nurse practitioner, but all that just kind of comes back to you. And like I said, I'm old school, but yeah, it seemed like a lot longer than what it was.
Everything I've learned from there has kind of, I guess, overlapped, and it helped me in the situations where it wasn't me thinking about what needed to be done, it just happened. It's an instinct that kicked in. You know, we're required to have CPR training as a nursing student, also here in the gym as well. My CPR training, it's pretty fresh, but I mean, most people do it and then forget it. It was just something, like I said, just happened, and you remember it when the moment comes. At Wallace, they've taught us a lot about that you'll know what to do when it happens, and that people question their nursing career all the time. But I feel like Mr. McGrew was there for a reason, not just for me, but for him as well. God puts people in your lives and puts you in certain places for a reason, and I know that was the case.
Yeah. You just look amazing. I just keep staring at you.
He's going back to work Monday.
Oh my goodness, you just look amazing. You really do.
That's what I said when I
It's been a miracle.
went to the hospital and actually got to see him in the hospital. I was expecting him to be in the bed.
Yeah.
I walked in and he stands up, sitting in the chair.
This was on Sunday, wasn't it?
Saturday.
Saturday.
I don't remember anything. My whole week is a blur. to me.
Even Monday.
Even Monday, I don't remember anything.
He'd been in Cullman from Tuesday till Friday. And Friday night, they sent him to Birmingham, and that's what he remembers.
I remember waking up with everything in me, going to the hospital. And, I didn't know what had happened. I
3 days later.
didn't know if I had a wreck, or if she was good, okay, or anything. But the paramedics there assured me that I was going to be okay and told me what was going on. So
And I'm
We're very thankful that he
we-
does.
I'm very, very thankful.
I'm very thankful you're sitting here. Like I said, you look amazing. I can't quit saying that enough.